As they say, live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Well, here we go. It's the man that promises you nothing and delivers. It's the veritable man motor mouth. It's Road Woods who feels the need to call himself Rob Vega. It somehow makes him feel important. Anyway, do have a listen and try not to throw up.
Oh, we're here. Who knew?
Here we go. Here we
Here
go,
we
Mr.
go.
Stephen.
I know. And
Yeah,
today you have a special guest.
I do. As a gentleman I met in my travels around the country. He's,
Okay.
I understand, I know slightly more about him than you do. I met him recently. He's
Okay.
he's an investor fellow. He spent a lot of time in South Africa. He's based, I believe, now in the Netherlands, or he's from the Netherlands, and he's experienced a lot of frustrations with trying to do stuff in this very frustrating place we call South Africa. And
Okay.
we got chatting, and I just thought it'd be great to bring him on the show, and he can just share some of the things that he's done or tried to do,
Okay.
and we can make fun of it.
Oh, well, that'll be great. That's what we do. That's what we do best.
That's what we
So
do. Yes, that is exactly
let's
what we
bring
do.
Arthur. Let's bring Arthur in and have him tell us. Arthur, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, guys.
Thank you. And see, Arthur dressed up. I'm just saying, Mister. I've got a
Oh,
baseball
I
cap
dressed
and a
up. What do you
sweatshirt.
mean?
Ah,
I'm
sorry,
dressed. Look at that. I'm
you got your
dressed.
baseball cap on. You got your woolly on. Okay.
I
So,
do. I do.
all
I
right.
do.
Cold, I think.
All right. So just to get things going.
Yeah.
The radio station I work at, we did a broadcast from a fancy gated community here in the northern part of Joburg.
Right.
The northern part of Joburg. I don't want to talk too much about that, but I met Arthur then. We got talking about the country, frustrations. He's trying to do some things here. There's things he can do, and there just seems to be am I right, Arthur? Just an unwillingness on the part of the South African government and the authorities to really get behind some of the things that you want to do, and there's a lot that needs to be done.
Absolutely. There's a you know the reason I invested in South Africa is really the opportunity which it presents in solving problems. And I've always looked at things. If you don't solve a problem, you cannot be successful as an entrepreneur. And that was part of the thing that led me to South Africa. My background is much more in aerospace, and I've done a lot of work in flight training equipment for aircraft manufacturing. But what that led me to understand is how quickly we can actually manufacture and build airplanes. And when I sold my business in the Netherlands, I thought, okay, I got to reinvest and fix where we can actually need to fix things and create solutions. What was really interesting to me was how fast Boeing and Airbus actually produces an airplane. It takes 9 days to manufacture an airplane. It takes 6 minutes to get a car out of a factory. But yet we stuck with this problem about creating a good housing solution in South Africa. And that's where I designed my product and looked at what we can do to make things faster. And we can actually build, in the region of 6,000 homes a year out of a factory, create a large number of jobs. But most importantly, it's a quality product. And what we've done in South Africa is try to use the timber, and we've been very successful with all the problems in getting there to get to off the grid solutions, because energy is a crisis to resolve it itself. And our estate that we've developed is off the grid. The same with the sewer plants. There's no sewer infrastructure. So we came up with all these innovative ideas about how to solve these problems, and then you get into the problem.
And that's what we want to talk about. This is, I think what Stephen and I, we like to just make fun of stuff and pull things apart, and we want to keep it light. And I understand you've got a product, but I think what we really want to concentrate on is just the ridiculous nature of this country and how there's so many possibilities here. I mean, it's a beautiful country, so many possibilities, and there are so many people trying to do stuff. I was at a what do you call it, like a convention. There's a I'm not going to mention the name, but big convention They were dealing with waste management and soil and water and stuff. All these minds from around the world were there. They're still there right now. It's this big lab expo. That's not the point. The point is there are so many smart people that want to do stuff here. There's so much potential in the place, but there just seems to be this ridiculous unwillingness on the part of the South African authorities to get behind projects like this. And I think what is really frustrating is we all know. I mean, Stephen's had dealings with the people here in South Africa, and so many ridiculous things were put in the way of his. I mean, you wanted to get involved here, Stephen. You wanted to invest. There are lots of people who want to do stuff here, and we just constantly get blocked by this lack of political will. This adhere. I mean, the place is corrupt as the day.
Absolutely,
and it's
and it doesn't serve their purpose, And so when we came here, the idea is we can actually solve poverty, we can solve a housing solution, we can create equality, we can actually build really good communities. And I've been up and down to the president's office trying to get them to come and actually have a look. But it doesn't serve their purpose, right? So the guys from the president's investments office, they come out, have a look, Twitter it for 5 minutes, and then they run away, and nothing happens. They make it look like, and it's just a joke to look at. They want to get the votes, they Twitter it, and they look like they're doing something, but actually they do nothing about it. And when you then need to go and get permissions to get things done, it's an absolute nightmare for an entrepreneur. And we understand in Europe and things how difficult it is to get your stuff done, but here it's nearly impossible to get your things done.
I mean, Stephen, you wanted to get involved and you wanted to do stuff, and you just got hit by these ridiculous blockades and laws, and they wanted a piece of your company. And I mean, how was that for you?
It's really frustrating because they kind of hold you hostage, because if you don't do something, then they don't just move on in the next chain of command to get the signatures on the documents, and you need.
Yeah, but Stephen, Stephen, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay, good. So I just want to say you had some issues trying to get involved here, and you wanted to bring some of your magic to the place.
Yeah, we were going to buy one of your sports teams, and the problem that we had, and I don't know if Arthur's had this problem, is when we met with all the people involved, our problem was we said, well, at some point we're going to pull our money out, and the government was like, but no, we want you to leave it here. So that was the issue. Is sort of like, if we're going to invest 50 or 75 million US into a sports team and everything that we were going to do, at some point we're saying, well, we have to pay dividends, we have to take our money out, and the government was like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I don't know if Arthur that's your problem, but was the one that made us go, we like South Africa, but at some point the money has to come out, and they were more like, no, it kind of just stays here forever. So I don't know if you have that issue, but we had that. That was our biggest issue.
Yeah, and so the other issue I have on top of that is the BEE regulations, which basically, if you don't have that, you don't get anywhere. And this is crippling the entrepreneurs in the country, because we have good products, we have good stuff, and we are being blocked, as Rob's indicating, because we're not letting the guys who are actually going to steal you blind on board into the program.
Right. Yeah. I found it very interesting. When with the sports team, we were allowed to buy over 50%, which I thought was interesting because of the way the laws worked, but they still kind of ran it. And then and our whole problem with that was, if you ran it as well as you keep telling us you ran it, you wouldn't need us to come in and buy it. So it was like, it was a double-edged sword. It's like we own it on paper, but we didn't have any control over it. And like I said, we could deal with that. But the bigger one was like when the government was sort of like, no, you don't get to really take money out. And if you do, you pay taxes and levies and fees. I was just like, you never get your money out. So even if we take it and did 5 or 10x on our investment, by the time we got it out, we would be break even, which to me was just crazy.
And so you're right about that, Stephen. So what's the problem in the whole foreign investment is when you look at Europe or US, the amount of earnings that you can do is just swallowed up. So it makes the country uninvestable, because you lose everything to your earnings. And so then why invest here? And so, there are the guys like me who then think we can go and fix it, but then you run into the problems, and then you sort of like, okay, now I got to fix this. But it's very hard. And then you see these guys go, oh, we need foreign investors, and they have literally interviewed me and told me I should get my butt out of the country and go back to where I come from because I'm not
Oh, you can
needed
say
here.
whatever you want. We can worry about
It's
that.
YouTube. You can use language on YouTube. You're good.
I know,
Yeah.
but they basically tell me, and I need to get my white foreign ass back out of the country because I'm just a colonizationer from the
Okay.
Netherlands. I'm not respected, and neither am I wanted here. But then this country doesn't survive without the foreign investors. The
Right.
other problem we have is we can't speak the truth. The truth is that you are blocked on all the sides.
Right.
The moment you mention it and it gets to the people, then they just don't do your documents. And so you get all these, even when I look at how our Dutch government helps the foreign guys here,
Right.
the guys can't say the truth, because the truth is we get blocked everywhere, and we are hostage to pay large amount of bribes. And I can tell you bribes that ranges from pay my daughter's MBA to weddings to buy me a car or buy me properties or
Right.
all kinds of stuff. And it's ridiculous. And then when you actually go and put these out on the corruption fields and say, hey guys, this is it, then you get stamped as the black sheep. And then the next thing is they go, oh no, those are not bribes, those are political contributions to the party, man. And then they just let it go. And then you're like, okay, so we've achieved absolutely nothing, and it's really hard to work here.
So when you're building these homes, you were saying you build 6,000 homes, you use the wood and whatnot. So when
Yeah.
you try to do something, then are you finding? I'm assuming you're talking from experience. The weddings, the MBAs, and whatnot. So that's prevalent today? See, with the football team, we didn't have to deal with that. We just dealt with the football team or your rugby team. I'm sorry, we
Yeah.
just dealt with them. Did we also then talk to like the central bank and whatever about pulling money out? And that's when we found out that was an event. So we
Yeah.
didn't get to the point where we had to buy a car for anybody. We just got to the point where by the time they taxed our money going out, it was like we might as well just keep it there.
Yeah.
So we didn't get
No,
to the bribe part.
Yeah, no. So we're a little bit down the track, but so you whether you liked it or not, you're part of the
Right.
problem, and the solutions
Right.
you have. If you don't do it, then you're kind of screwed. Then you lose all your investments.
So with you right now, with what's going on and with your investments and where it sits, so if you don't, let's say, pay for somebody's MBA, then your company just sits stagnant. Is
That that
that's okay?
that's pretty much it. And then you got to ruffle and hustle and bustle to get
Right.
through those processes, because it's not small amounts of money that they do. Like
Right.
um, we've overcome some of them by not doing it. Of course, I'm very much not doing it, but the speed at what you can operate slows the business down, and that
Right.
costs business an enormous amount of money, right? So I'm not saying that we pay these things. I'm just saying we got to manage them, but it takes an awful long time, and that slows down the whole economic growth in the country. And so we're wondering, why are we sitting at a 0.5 GDP in this country? Is because the local authorities and even the provincial authorities do not want to cooperate. They don't. It's really a nightmare.
And nobody's
It,
investigating it. There's no like here would
well,
be the FBI. Like there's nobody that investigated, or is it sort of like it's just this is how we
well,
do business here. Don't worry
can I,
about it.
It's Africa, so
can I,
they do it.
yeah,
Yep.
can
Okay.
I just say this? What is this is all gloom. There's a bit of hope, and Arthur and I spoke about this. It's the frustrating thing about South Africa. There is an emerging group, a generation, if you like, people who, how can I say, of the majority, who are making a break from the loyalist past of the ANC and these other parties, and this is why a lot of people think the country has a possible good future, but there's an adherence to loyalty. There's a belief that some of the parties that are doing things right are going to bring back apartheid, which is absolute bullshit, obviously. But this
Right.
is the bullshit they're selling their voters. This is what they're telling their people. They're saying if you bring in, and just for the sake of reference, you've got the ANC and you've got the DA. The DA is basically the opposition party. You've got these other splinter groups, but those are your two main parties. And the DA is doing where they've been allowed, and they're not perfect, where they are in government in places like the Western Cape, And in one of the department, which is called Home Affairs, which is responsible for IDs and passports, things are going well. People are seeing the results. They're seeing things happen. And the hope is that the larger majority of people can, this isn't about politics. This is about economics. And if we can just, I was saying this to Arthur as well, if we can just get rid of this idea that the DA is going to bring back apartheid. No one wants to bring it back. We just want to make money. If we could get people focused on who can make money and how they can make it best for you, we can get rid of the politicians and get the economists in there and say, this is what needs to be done. There's more than enough brain power here. There's more than enough money. The resources are here, and people want to help. But they weaponize a narrative which says that if DA or people like that come in, apartheid's going to come back, and you're all going to be recolonized, and you're going to get shoved out of your homes. And it's just really frustrating, because we all know what needs to be done. And you've seen Arthur's experience. I mean, he was one of many people that want to get involved, that want to do something for the country. But unless he gives them a piece of the pie, and why should he? Why should he give a politician a piece of the pie that he's created? What the politician should be doing is helping him access resources, whatever he needs to improve his business, which is going to improve the country, which is going to benefit ultimately the country. But the truth is, they're not particularly concerned about the large group of people. They're about enriching themselves. And the hope is, if we can get rid of these autocrats, these kleptocrats, and get in just normal people who can do their job, right. This could be a great place, and we can all see it. We can all see the potential. There's so much here that hasn't been done. I mean, Arthur mentioned the 0.5% growth. I think it's actually down to 0.1 now. It's virtually not growing at all. And I read a thing the other day which said, if you had invested, I'm going to use the local currency, if you had invested 100,000 Rand, which is what? It's not even $10,000. If you'd invested 100,000 Rand in the New York Stock Exchange, you would have 1.4 million today. If you'd invested it in the Joburg Stock Exchange, you might have 180,000 Rand. So effectively, you'd be losing money. It's extraordinary. Money is leaving. People are frustrated. But so much that can be done. And Arthur will tell you, there's so much that needs to be done, that can be done, that people want to do. And we're just looking at these people who's sitting there feathering their own damn nests, who are not interested in people. And as I've said, I don't know if I said it to Arthur, but I've said it to people, the only difference between the government that we have in this country now and the national government that ran apartheid is the color of skin. They feel less about the majority of black people in the country, possibly than even the Nationalist Party did. They could give two shits about the majority of people. But when someone like Arthur, or anybody who comes along who wants to do something, as he said, get your white ass out of here, you must be a racist, you're going to bring back apartheid. And so the narrative just continues. It's ridiculous, just straight.
And so you're absolutely right, Rob, when you talk about the opportunities. And we're actually trying to do, because one of the biggest other problems we have is, of course, the skills problem in the country. And we've actually initiated narratives to create training programs. And we got some funding from the Netherlands to actually help create jobs and train them. So we actually went into people who had no chance, who had no formal education, bring them on board, put them into training, give them the opportunity to build a future. We're actually still running these programs to try and help the local things. And Rob, I just want to iterate this. I think you are absolutely right that it's the private investors or the private entrepreneurs who's going to drive the economy, not the politicians, because they are just not doing it. It's the private guys, and you can see that everywhere. Like us, it's a shitty hard job. I can tell you, it's not fun, but it's these type of things that's going to make the difference in the country. Is the private enterprises driving it, whether it's real estate or infrastructure development or IT. That's where the opportunities lie, and you got to look past these government guys to get the job done, and actually just sort of. The rules shouldn't apply, because I'll give you some examples. I got to stick to the rules of where I've got a building line, and I'm not allowed to build 30 meters away from the close to the road. But informal settlements can just go and build, and they will shut down my site, but they don't go and do something. Where's the law in the country about being equal? It doesn't work. And so I'm facing all these things, and it's really shitty to work in. But it is the private enterprise that will drive the country. That's for sure.
So when your company now employs how many people?
We're roughly about 130 people, and we're doing about we did a 60 student training program as well from the informal
Okay.
settlements.
So, but my point to that is that you're taking people that would normally not have a job or
Yep.
not get training, and you're training them and you're trying to bring them up. Now, my understanding since apartheid left is that the government wants to bring people up. Apparently not, just like here. So, you're trying to bring people up. So it's good lip service. And to your point, it's good when you put it on Instagram, but it doesn't really work when they really have to do it because you're like, hey, we're training all these people to have skills and jobs to help the country to go forward. And then nobody seems to care.
No, and they go out with all these propagandas like, oh, we're creating jobs. They're doing none of that. When I came here and I had the vision of what I do, I would not be doing 120 jobs right now. I'd be doing 10 to 15,000 jobs because I would be having, if I got this right and the government would actually see what we're doing and solving this, we would have created 15,000 jobs around the country with 6 factories running from, the Gauteng province to Eastern Cape, Western Cape, the KZN. We would add a factory and we would be tackling a 50,000 housing production to tackle the problem of housing in this country. If you do what South Africa does right now, and I told Rob this as well, it's going to take 185 years to solve the problem of how they do solve the housing problem right now. It's just not doable the way they do. And if we have the government that was saying, we're going to solve the problem, then we would have been, just my company, 15,000 people stronger.
Is that because of the corruption, or is that just because of the bureaucracy, or is it a combination of both?
Both. It's corruption, what's in it for me, and actually not showing up and doing things.
Let me give you. I want to jump in here, Steve. Let me give you an interesting stat that I came across, just to give you an idea. 2 things I want to say. We've mentioned this on the show before. If you took this out, if you took race out of the politics in South Africa, you would start to get at what really needs to be done and what is real. So if you take out the propaganda of the white versus black crap, which the ANC and these other parties seem intent on, they keep repeating it. I've always said, we said on the show before, basically the white folk, the ANC and the EFF, and this is the other party that I remember Donald had this Julius guy all over his screen dancing around, kill the farmer, kill the boer and all that. That's the EFF. These guys are so intent on driving the racial wedge between communities in South Africa. If you remove that, you'll find that ordinary people, they just, it's just about, they want the basic things. They want things to be done. And they're a lot more connected. But we have these annoying politicians who keep driving a wedge between people, and it is real. I've always said white people that they're upset about, they've either left the country or they're dead. The folks that are here stayed. They wanted to build. No one was a fan of apartheid. No one thinks it's a good idea. It ain't coming back ever. No one, let's get that off the table and let's just build something. But they're not interested in solutions. They're not interested in actually fixing things because, and it translates into the educating of the people. They've had 30 years to train people, to educate, to uplift, and they've done nothing. They talk about, we must push transformation. What has the last 30 years been about? They've passed laws that said you have to have people that look a certain way in your company. They haven't trained anyone. There's been no skills training. There's been no development of people. Giving people money is not empowering them. Giving people choices and training people is how you empower. But that's a lot harder. But the interesting thing is, I reckon in about 2008, when there was the world crash, the stock market crash. 2 years after that, we had the World Cup here, and there was this slight economic boost. But they reckon that's when the whole rot started. From 2010 till today, 15 years. In 15 years, it was the Zuma era, which was the president before Ramaphosa. And by the way, the current president was the deputy president during that whole era, 2010 onwards. What I want to say is they worked out that from 2010 till now, the Zuma years, right? They estimate that about 8 trillion, I don't know what it is in dollars, but it's 8 trillion rand was looted, was stolen, was removed. And that translated into 10 million jobs throughout the country. They have absolutely raped and destroyed the country. And at the end of it, they want to say, well, you need to blame all these white people and the DA people. They are standing in the way of transformation. No one has ever stood in the way of that. No one has ever thought that that was something that didn't need to happen. We've all believed that. But you look to a government, the guy in charge. If you're in charge, it's your fault. You can't keep worrying about apartheid. I mean, the Japanese got bombed shitless at the end of Second World War. They rebuilt the country. There are many examples of countries around the world that have experienced trauma, oppression, whatever. They've drawn a line in the sand. They've rebirthed themselves, and they've got on with it. Don't keep blaming the past.
That's a good
example. It's like
example.
we said. You've got it. Sorry, I just want to say this quickly, Arthur. It's like the interesting narrative is, I'm not going to get on the whole Trump-Biden thing, but every time something goes wrong, brings up Biden's name. Every time something goes right, oh, it's Trumpy. Stop talking about the past and build for the future. We have the same but a larger problem here where they keep looking to the past. They want to bring up court cases from 30 years ago. All of a sudden, when their political clout and their numbers are dropping, they're suddenly going right back to the past to bring it up. Because the truth is, they don't want things to be fixed. They don't want people to be educated. Because whatever color you are, once you become educated in South Africa, you start to look at the government and you go, but you guys are shit. You've stolen the place blind. You've got black, white, whatever, but let's just say black folk. Their parents obviously were oppressed. They weren't educated properly. So they're kids. We mentioned this before. One of my friends is an investment banker. He happens to be a black guy. But he is so anti the government. Why? Because he's educated. He's trained overseas. He's got a brain. He's an intelligent man. He understands money. They don't want people like that, of whatever color, developing in the country. Because if those people are allowed to develop, they will lose all their support, and goodbye ANC.
Yeah, and it doesn't serve their purpose. And like Rob is a good example. And, if I look at the Netherlands and the German in the World War II, we had our problem. And I mean, there was a lot of Dutch people killed in World War II, and today we are world trade partners, and that stuff doesn't. So there is this thing where you get over what you've done, right, and accept it and move on. And I think I'm going to make a joke about it. The next thing we're going to find is that they're going to sue their parents for being alive because I didn't want to be here. They want.
They've already done that in the United States. The girl already sued her mom and dad because it's already happening. So
yeah,
you guys are behind the eight ball.
They want everything for free, and they want to do nothing for it. And so what's interesting, though, is there is like Rob's saying, there is the younger generation of the people, right, black, Indian, what doesn't matter, who's want to move past it. They want the recognition. They don't want to just get a job because the color of the skin. They want a job because they've earned the job. And we see that, but it's going to take a long time for that to change because the current government is still there. And before we get there until 2028, it's going to be a nightmare, right?
And does the press cover this? And does the press say anything, or does the press just throws their hands up in the air and goes, "Nobody cares"?
The press
I'm going to jump in. As a media man. I'm going to say this. This is the encouraging thing. It is honestly lights at the end of the tunnel in South Africa. Every day you will pick up news reports about somebody else being charged, another story of corruption. Now that is bad, but that never happened 10 years ago. Now we're hearing about it every day. We've got a story running now. I'm not going to go into the details. We've got a police. Arthur will know about it. I don't know, but we've got this senior cop guy who's being accused of shutting down task forces that were investigating political killings. Blah blah blah. So it's almost like the ANC is starting to turn in on itself, and they start immolating, and that sounds bad, but it's also good because I think they realize the gig is up. There is only so much bullshit you can put out there, and people start to go, hang on, this is now the second time or the third time you bring this up. We know that's bullshit. What is really going on? So I think we are apparently very highly rated, this country, in terms of media transparency and the independence of the media. I have to give them props for that. You can say a lot of things. That's the one thing. You can say a lot of things now that you perhaps couldn't say 10, 15, even 20 years ago. So that's good. So now you can see the shit. Now you can see the problem. Now what do we do about it?
Got to fix it.
So the thing is from my side is when I look at writing or getting an interview of the Sunday Times, or even getting the people to look at writing down my things, I don't get the traction. Whenever you try to tell what you do, they don't care. They don't write. It's not interesting for them to write what we are doing, trying to build and rebuild and train. They don't care. It's not bad enough. The only stories I make are the stories which is that I evicted somebody, or I put somebody off the property, or something I did wrong, which is not true. But that's the news they like to write about, us trying to develop the country. They don't write about us actually. I relocated personally. About 700 people, cost me about $4 million to get this done. And then 15 people would say no. And that's where the press focuses on the 15 people that says, oh, this guy just took our land and this, that, and now he's evicting us. They all agreed, they all signed, but then the press turns it around.
Right.
It's really, really difficult. Really difficult.
So basically, there's bias in the press.
Yeah.
Because they're only picking out the negative. So to your point, you spend 4 million rand, move 40 people or whatever it was, and 15 people go, they didn't get paid. Did those 15 people get paid, or they just didn't sign, or they're just not even part of the 40?
They actually did sign, and they got everything, but then they last minute they just thought they're going to take a different strategy. But that being said, I did more. I rebuilt homes. I actually surveyed and got the land for the people. I got it registered on their name. I got them to be actually landowners in conjunction. So we did a hell of a good job. That doesn't get seen. It just goes, oh no, 700 people. We served women and children food for the winter. We take the kids to the school. None of that. Nobody cares. And that's really something that is not seen, what we do.
Right.
And all we get is the hardship, and the negative press really gets us quite quickly. That's they like that, not the good stuff.
So is there anybody in the government that's trying to work with you guys so you can go from A to Z, or is it just an uphill battle constantly?
It's a constant battle to get actually to work with them. I did have a good relationship with the previous premier, which was David Makura, and I actually showed, and I took them to the Netherlands, showed them how we can actually solve these problems, and they loved it. And then we came back, and 2 months after he came back, he resigned as the premier. So then you're back to square one. You got to start all over again. Yeah.
That's crazy. It's just, you take 3 steps forward, you take 10 steps back.
Yeah, it's really difficult to manage.
And so the government, still like any other government, they don't really care. A lot of lip service, nothing. The press seems to be covering it in a negative way. So there's nothing that you're doing, even all the positive stuff, that no one seems to be giving you kudos for. No. Interesting. Okay. Well, there you go. South Africa at its finest.
Absolutely. We did, of course, with all the obstacles in a long period of time, get some stuff done, right? But it's the municipality Mugale that we did get our permissions to be off the grid. We did get our permissions to build our own sewer plant. Eventually, you do get there, but where it will take me 3 or 4 months, or in the US or the Netherlands, to get this done with the municipality, sit down, knock it out the park and get it done. It took me more than 2.5, 3 years just to get that one done.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, Stephen, I want to just say, getting back to this conference convention that's happening at a center. We actually did a show from there, the radio station I'm at. We were there, and I got to speak to a lot of people, international people. So we've got people from all around the world. That thing is happening right now. It was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's happening. And what the convention is all about, I don't want to get into the technical details, but it is a solutions-based conference. It deals with how to do things better, how to handle energy better, how to build things better, how to get rid of waste, handle water. There's a trove of really smart people that, for some inexplicable reason, have decided to come and have a convention in South Africa and share their knowledge and share their expertise. I think it's because a lot of people can see the potential, and they're scratching their heads thinking, well, I'm really good and I know stuff, and they need me. I can see they need me. The guy's lost his head. I've got glue that can put his head back on. So I'm going to talk to him, and I can show him how he can glue his neck and put his head back on, and his life will be great. But the problem is, they arrive here. I actually spoke to one guy from the UK, and he said it's the most frustrating thing, because he can see there are a lot of smart people here in South Africa that want, like Arthur, for instance, that want his help, that want to be, that we need it. We need those people. Then we have a government official who you think, oh, great, he's here. He's come to learn, and maybe he can take some of the lessons and put that into government. But it turns out this guy actually came here almost to spy on the conference, to see what was going on, what's being said. And this government guy expressed frustration as to why they were here. Why have they? It's almost like
unwelcoming.
It's almost like these people have they didn't go through the government. Why have they brought their expertise and their plans and their solutions directly to the public? And by the way, this convention is free, so you can walk in there as a business owner, as an investor, network with people. It is a mind. There's just so much intellectual capital in that room. People that have done stuff all around the world. It's literally the whatever it is, the Holy Grail that's arrived. Exactly what the country needs. And you have government officials walking around and they're saying, "Why are you here? Why didn't you talk to us first? Are you sidestepping government?" And I'm putting words in their mouth like, "Where's our cut? Why don't we get something?" So this is the problem you face. And I will say this. I think the majority of South Africans of whatever color are all pretty much on the same page. They're fed up with the government. They want, like we said on the show before, Stephen, they just want their kids to get a good education. They want to know that things are safe, basic things that all of us want. And when you sit down with people of wherever they look, you find we all want the same thing. But these pesky politicians keep bringing up the past. They keep dividing people. They keep getting in the way. So when we have a sporting event, it's fantastic because everybody is there on the same page. And you think, this is what we need politically. And I say that because if we can get people in office who have even the slightest comprehension of what people like Arthur and all these other people are trying to bring, then we get somewhere. But it's impossible for brains to punch through while you've got idiots running the circus. That's really the problem. And they've got, not only are they idiots, but they have the power. So we're hoping we've got a regional election next year and a national election in about 3 years' time. If these two elections can go properly, then folks like Arthur will be able to hit those 10,000 employees and actually do something. It's like the whole world is standing around going, "Guys, you need us. We want to help. Let's help." We go, "What's our cut?" "What do you mean, what's your cut? I thought you were serving the people. Why? What's this got to do with you? You serve the people. That's what you do. You are here to get people like me into your country to invest and help you. So let's do it. What's my cut?" "Okay, Passau."
So the interesting thing is I got permission to build a school, and Rob's right. Everything starts with education. You have no idea how difficult it is even to find investors or people who we've got a good opportunity. We got a backlog of kids that can go into school. We can build education. Nobody wants to work with South Africa. I've had 60 Dutch investors just say, "Sorry, Arthur, don't touch South Africa." And the local investors are all saying, "Oh, we'll get our money from Qatar." And actually, my experience is there's very little money in the country because it's everywhere but not here. And so you would imagine, and this is just the logic, like if we have these opportunities to create education, build skills, that people would jump on the bandwagon and let's get this stuff solved, because there's just not enough money to get these problems solved because it's been stolen. It's really been stolen.
And nobody seems to really care about it. I mean, they do, but nobody seems to, like, the papers don't care. They write negative. They do this, they do that.
Yeah.
So it just seems that overall they're just putting themselves back, 100 years more than everybody that's coming in. And that's, like I said, when we went there, that was the problem. We found dealing with the government was an event. And I was just like, this is definitely not worth it. For what the little bit we're going to get is not worth it. And I think that's the problem, right? Until they change it. See, we do stuff in Asia. Well, and Thailand has what they call the BOE, right? You present to the BOE, and if you present to them and they like your plan, you can actually own 100% of your company, right? And it's just 6 months process, blah, blah, blah. And it's a legitimate process, right? You go and you hire counsel and you sit and you make a plan. So if South Africa wants to keep this structure, maybe they need to get like their own BOE, Bureau of Investment. And so they can look at projects on a project by project, and maybe that would be better instead of what they're doing now. Because what they're doing now is just sort of like, if you don't pay me my 20% VIG, you're not going to get anything. And that, at the end of the day, is not going to help the country, and you guys will go back to the 1980s where you have like an internal civil war. So at some
Yeah,
point, the people are
Well,
going to wake up, I would think.
well,
they will.
Stephen, we are the only country, as far as I'm aware, in the
Yeah.
last certainly the last 10 years, that's actually deindustrialized. It's gone backwards. We've actually
Okay.
gone backwards. We've gone that way. There are
Right.
countries to the north of us. People say, "Oh, Africa." Let me tell you, north of us, and countries in Africa have actually done really well. Their GDP,
Mhm.
their economies are growing. So this isn't an African thing. This is a South African thing. There are countries to the north of us that are growing immensely. Places like Ethiopia, Kenya, their economies are thriving. There is so much that can be done in this country. We used to be, if I remember correctly, at one point when I was a lot younger than I am now, the GDP of Africa, I think it was about 20 years ago, the GDP of
Right.
Africa, South Africa at that point was responsible for about 55% of the entire GDP of Africa. That's how strong
Nice.
the country was. Now, if we even 10%, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, and
So
we gave up all
so
our
that's
manufacturing
Africa.
capabilities.
That's just
Yeah.
Africa. It would be. So people say, "Oh, well, you can't compare South Africa to Europe and America." So I won't do that. Let's just compare apples with apples and see how the rest of Africa's done and where South Africa's gone. And most of Africa has just started to advance. Namibia, Botswana, Kenya, Ethiopia, all these countries. I'm not saying they're first world, but they're certainly not where they were 10, 15 years ago. This country has gone backward relative to them.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what Donald Trump is doing is making sure that all the manufacturing comes back to the US by bringing their factories back into the country. And South Africa used to have an enormous manufacturing capabilities. They used to produce iron, not just iron core. They produced steel. They produced military weapons. They produced high-tech stuff that was, in the apartheid era, forced them to be like really way out there. And the moment that was gone, all the manufacturing disappeared and was outsourced to the other countries. So they have the same kind of problem. And that was also my incentive for being here. Manufacturing needs to get back into the country so it's local, it's affordable, and there's so much to be done. South Africa has got the capabilities. They don't have the people to incentivize it. Ford, Mercedes, VW all produce their European cars in South Africa, yet South Africa does not have one local manufacturing for their own car brand, which is crazy. They actually could, and they could actually do it cheaper and have people support their own economy, much like the Chinese are building their BYD type of strategies, right? And so I agree with you, Rob. It used to, but it's not there at the moment.
No.
So what do you think
And we
it's
know
going to take
why.
to get it there? Well,
Yeah.
you need new politicians,
easy.
young blood, and everything. Yeah.
No, look, Stephen, let me answer that. Based on the conversations I have with all kinds of people because of what I do, I come into contact with people and a lot of different communities and a lot of levels, hierarchies, whatever you want, educational backgrounds. They're all on the same page. That's the exciting part. There's a great level of frustration in the country about what's going on. Now, that's bad, but another investor, I seem to know a lot of investor people. Another investor friend of mine said to me, "This is what you got to do. You've got to look at this from the point of view things have to get really bad before we can start going up." And I think we're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel. So the only place we can go is up. It has to hurt people. And when I say people, I mean majority, electorate majority. And you know what I mean by that. We have to get. So when you were hurting so bad that you'll take any solution, it means that you are now interested in what can be done instead of the bullshit that these politicians are feeding people. So every time somebody comes up with a solution, if they look like Arthur, they are deemed as colonizers or racist and going to bring back apartheid, or they want to steal from the community, and so they create this fear. Right now, the fear is that if another party other than the ANC is in office, apartheid is coming back. That is particularly true of your communities don't necessarily have access to the education they probably should have gotten. How do I know that? Because my friend who works as a banker, he, young black guy, he's in his mid-30s, his parents from the old ANC 60s, 70s, 50s apartheid era, he's been fortunate. He was educated. I don't know his background, but he's been freed. He's been freed of the shackles of ignorance, of a lack of education. And as he's become educated and as he's ascended in his career, he can now see what needs to be done. And if we can get more people like that, I mean, I don't give a shit what you look like. If you can get more people like that, then the obvious thing will happen and the ANC will be out. But so we need economics in, we need politics out. That needs to happen in South Africa. We've got one of the greatest constitutions in the world. We've got all these brilliant laws, none of which are enforced. So the framework is there. The legal framework is there. Our judiciary at the moment hasn't been destroyed. So there are things in place, ready to go. So if we can just get people, when they sit in the ballot box going, I don't give a shit what people look like. Who's doing their job? Done. That's the problem. There's a legacy. There's a political legacy that has to be overcome. I'm hoping, as we've mentioned, that the younger generation that are coming in that are kind of seeing through that bullshit. Is it enough? I don't know. Maybe if we can replace these guys. This isn't about color. This isn't about transformation. This is about feathering my own damn nest. That's what it's about. If we can get these people out and get proper government servants in, we're in shape. But
that could be a 10 or 15-year process, though, by the time the younger people get involved and get in.
Well, I think we might be closer than that, but I don't know. Who knows? The numbers are changing rapidly. So I don't know.
Cool. We'll see. Well, very interesting. And then that was cool. That was a fun show.
It was. It was. It was like squeezing a big zit.
Anything you want to say before we leave to the fans?
Arthur?
No, I think South Africa still presents a good opportunity. It's a place where a lot of things actually can leapfrog. From my side, the reason I'm here, I'm like the first company in South Africa to actually have timber structures approved by the banks for building. So I'm leapfrogging definitely. My propaganda or my media is more about getting people to understand the climate change in the economics for using timber. So there's definitely a lot of things to be done in the country with innovation. Innovation is going to excel this country, and that's my belief. If you don't innovate, you won't build success. And part again of why I see the opportunities here. Difficult, but definitely the place where innovation and new products and new transformation will help the newer generation get into the next level. And this is going to be transformational to South Africa, but it's going to take some time.
There you go. Mr. Vega, anything you want to add before we go?
What this highlights is that there is so much that can be done. It is a great country. It's a beautiful country. Most of the people are very cool. There's no real problem with that. What is frustrating is we've got this layer of bullshit that we need to pop through. Once we can get rid of this legacy of the past that these politicians keep inject into their electorate, if we can get rid of that, if we can get rid of the politicians. I understand you need politicians. I understand you need people who understand how government works. That's fine. But right now, what the country needs is people who understand how money works, how businesses function, how to grow wealth, how to create jobs. That's pretty much all South Africa needs. Money can't buy you happiness, but it can fix potholes. It can build roads, can build bridges. So we're not worried about happiness. We just want lots of money. We want greedy people. I would like to see more people that are money focused. That's what I want. If we elect people that understand money, that want to grow money, then we're in shape. If we just elect people who are worried about growing money for themselves, then we're in shit. And there's a majority of people who are unfortunately largely uneducated by design who need to understand that. We've said that this country is like a battered woman. She keeps getting beaten, by the politicians. And then she says, oh, but they love me. I'm going to vote for them again. They will change. Yeah. Won't change. These guys won't change. They're stuck in the past. So, frankly, we just need a reset. We need a younger generation. We need a fresh outlook. If that happens, this place will be like, it will be like the Holy Grail. It will be unbelievable. And that's why you have, quite soon. They estimate that, and I don't know if this is true, they estimate that if the ANC were to be removed right now and we had something like the DAN, and I'm not saying they're perfect, that's honestly the only. It's the only party that's pro-business. If they got in, it would take about 5 years for things to not necessarily be perfect, but right the ship. They reckon about 5 years it would take to sort the mess out, to repair relationships with countries, to just say, hey, we're over our disease right now. About 5 years.
Yeah.
Will it happen? It kind of has to. Otherwise, we don't.
Let's have a problem here, and I'll solve the problem before we go. You want people to be educated, and you want people that want money, not for themselves, but to build money and wealth. Hire Jews. That's it. You hire my people. We'll come in. We'll fix the problem in about 5 minutes. That's the way we do it. That's it. We like paperwork. It's the same when we went to Ellis Island. It's the same when we bought the slums in Brooklyn. It's like there's a lot of paper. We like paperwork. Why don't you want to chat? We'll take care of it. You hire the Jews. We'll come in. We'll run the country. It'll be perfect. There you go. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I say that tongue in cheek, but we're going to be like, "What do you mean you're not educated? You have to be educated. You have, at least you have to be a doctor. So everyone will be a doctor or a lawyer. So they'll be suing each other all the time. That stimulates the economy. There'll be jobs. There'll be infrastructure. Yeah, that's the way you do it."
Einstein said, "An idiot can make something complicated. It takes a genius to keep it simple," and that's exactly what you say. Keep it simple. It's not complicated.
Yeah, it's not that tough. There you go. Kids, it's been fun. For all you fans that are watching the rebroadcast, don't forget to subscribe and like. If you're in South Africa, tell your friends, watch this, send it to the press, send it to the president. Yeah, have a good time with it. And then there you go. And we'll see. Why not? What do I care? We'll see everybody next week. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for being on the show. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to this Old Woods Rob Vega, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, fellow. You know, this podcast thing, it makes him feel very important, and he's a difficult fellow as it is to deal with. So thank you so much for putting up with him, and do take care.